Hello, welcome back, and hello to our audience on Zoom. Hi! All right, so before I introduce our featured poets, please remember that we're inviting both our live and live streamed audiences to write poems in response to the poetry of this season's featured poets. A call for submissions will open in 2025, and we'll be selecting poetry for our forthcoming anthology of response poems. You can read all about it on our website, as well as our Poem a Month challenge. If you're not a newsletter subscriber, please do go to planetearthpoetry.com and sign up so you can stay in the loop. All right, so our first poet is Bren Simmers. Bren Simmers is the winner of the CBC Poetry Prize and the Malahat Review Long Poem Prize. Her latest poetry collection, The Work, was a finalist for the 2024 Governor General's Literary Awards. She lives on Epequit, PEI. The Work engages with the work of love and loss and the hope that we might somehow learn to carry our grief. Simmers writes of an accumulation of losses: the sudden death of her father, the descent of her mother into dementia, her sister-in-law's terminal illness, and of the work of slowly making wholeness out of brokenness. Her writing reminds us that healing often comes through saying hello and yes, a realization that all this noticing was love. Welcome, Bren.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for coming out, and thank you to all those who read. What an incredible open mic that was. So thank you. Yes, please. I live on Epequid, or Prince Edward Island, and we don't even have a reading series. So to think of a weekly reading series it's such a gift, and so a pleasure to be here tonight and take part in this. I'm going to be reading from the work, and I thought I'd start with a poem called Ice Fishing. The last time I was in an airport, I ran from one empty terminal to the next, looking for a time zone with my father still in it. I found his ghost ice fishing in a connector tunnel at YYZ. In a temporary shelter erected to block the wind, he taught me how to cut a hole in the ice with an auger, sit on an overturned bucket, and wait. No hook, no bait, and still they leap, gasping, flopping at my feet. Stuffed in my carry-on, I could feed a village with my grief. These days, I don't need a shelter or an opening to talk to him. Simply stand on the ice and let the wind scale my cheeks. My father worked as an insurance adjuster his whole life, and it had a really big effect on me, which this poem kind of references. It's called Worry. Each time I let the cat out, I worry he'll be run over by a logging truck. From the old High German, Würgen, to strangle. Worry won't keep him safe as I strap on his breakaway collar. Holding my niece in a tight 2-arm grip, nosing her grapefruit scent. 6 days old, don't drop her. The voice in my head, my father's. Did you lock the doors? Stove off? A math problem for late at night. What percentage of our thoughts given to house fires and liver failures, and what percentage to love? But aren't those the same thing? My niece, asleep in my arms, as I bless her, thinking I can protect her from what's to come. But I can't. The heart expands and contracts. That's what it does. I'm just curious how many of you take part in NaPoWriMo? Yeah? Okay, fabulous. So this was from a prompt, National Writing Month prompt, to write a poem about someone you're proud of. And so I wrote this poem for my younger brother, and he was always a sort of a, one of the slow, what do they call them, late bloomers. And I just was really amazed by the way he showed up for his family during the worst possible time in his life and how he continues to show up for them. He's also a huge hockey fan, and I grew up in a hockey family, so I titled this poem MVP. You talk pedagogy with buttoned-up colleagues, then make me laugh mid-cancer talk by throwing a fuckhead in. Fell for a woman wearing a Team Sweden jersey in a pub filled with maple leaves. Kept playing hockey till concussions made you quit. Friends got into coke, you didn't. Reasoned with the dealer, renting the basement. Hey, it was just me, but I have young kids. Trophy on one hip, toddler on the other. When your wife got sick, months to a year left, you stopped teaching, took her to Disneyland, her last wish. You toss the kids high into the air and catch them, even though it tweaks your back. Wait till everyone's in bed before cracking a cold one. That hour alone, when you can let yourself feel it. You used to be captain, coach, and now it's lunches and pain meds, bath time and stories, an hour of TV before bed, running plays in your head, home or hospice. When I die, she said, the cancer dies too. I win. I'm going to read a couple poems now from a section in the book called Overheard. And I used a technique of writing down things that people were saying on backs of envelopes and used those sort of as jumping off points to write during a time when writing was really hard. And so you'll see there's italicized titles on one side and the response on the other. And this one's called Everything is a Valve. The heart has flaps called leaflets that open and close 80 million times a year. Leaves exchange water and gases through stomata, conduits for energy changing from one state to the next. Pores release oil, sweat. When bad news is the only input, I leak like a tap left to drip when temperatures dip. Tears made of salt ions, water and stress. Holding tanks for fresh water, the last glaciers in Africa gone by 2030. Come to bed, you say. Even a street light that shines all night knows when to sleep. I think this is one of the few happy poems in the book. Just to give you a little break. And it's because I always wanted a house that had a wood stove. I love wood stoves. And I don't have one. I'm happy to have a place to live, to be honest. And my partner said to me, well, the piano is the fireplace. The piano is the fireplace, the way it changes the mood of a room, like a little Marvel stove in a Bishop poem. Feed it fingers, pencil-scratched ideas. It scales, it purrs, roars them all back. Not the heat you wanted exactly, but close enough. Someone to play preludes while you wash dishes or lie on the couch after supper. To sustain, to vibrate freely, a wood that burns without ever going to ash. So there's a series in this book of prose poems that are document my mom's journey with Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is a terrible disease. And for those of you who are experiencing that in your family, my heart goes to you because it's awful. I want to start off though with a poem that captures one of the few humorous moments. My mom had cataract surgery. It's a point of context for this poem. I don't have eyes. I don't know if you can understand, and I can't ask, so I speak slowly, in short compliments. Try to make you laugh. Ask, is it warm or cold? Present limited choices, like the 2 outfits in your closet. Reading's gone, so I send flowers. How's your eye post-surgery? I don't have eyes. You used to talk for hours and now stutter to get different out. Is it fair to document decline when others want to remember you as before? And then you tell me your hair is a ladder that goes down into the universe. And of course I write that down. My problem, you say, is flying too close to the sun. One of the things that happens in Alzheimer's is when you start to forget words, you replace it with a word that's close. So instead of necklace, it might be next string. Instead of garbage, it might be refuge. So you'll hear those word replacements in this poem. And this poem's written during a time where my mom was experiencing a lot of paranoia and hallucinations. And it's called The Lady in the Closet. The lady in the closet hides your feet on the top shelf, money bags under the bed. Things are not good, not good. The lady stashes earboards and sock drawers, rips your photos off the wall. I don't feel safe, not good, I don't feel safe. The lady steals things when you're not around. Buries neck strings and coffee cups, balls dirty underfilters in the refuge. The lady is an angry, don't feel safe, not good. You're afraid to go to the washroom in case the lady comes back. Won't bathe with so many people around. 2 little boys and a little white dog have moved in. They're so hungry. Do you have any food? 'Cause the lady, you're sure it's a lady, won't leave you alone. I should say my mom is still alive. She's in late stage, near the end, and I get to see her in a few days, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'll just read one more from the series. It's called When You Started Having Accidents. When you started having accidents, I stopped documenting stages and started drinking more instead. When friends ask, I say, there's years left. Try to enjoy the God moments, feeding you lunch, guiding the juice cup to your mouth when you say, don't steal my fries. I don't tell them about soiling yourself in the optometrist's office or being found with another resident clothed in bed. Next, tripping over unsteady feet, hip protectors, 2 oblong pads sewn into coarse cotton pants. You pace and pace figure eights, dust the linoleum floor with grippy socks with fucking happy faces on them. Difficult phone calls, nonsense words strung together, 2, 2, 2, a T, a 2, and then lucid. The sky is beige, your food pureed. You've started to strike the aides during morning care, and their answer is always more drugs. On your birthday, you said, I love you, back. It'd been months. When friends ask, I tell them that. So I just have this one last poem. And I lost my dad about 3 months into the pandemic to a heart attack. And when you lose someone anyway, it's really difficult and your life completely changes. I never understood that before. But when you lose someone and you don't have a way to say goodbye to them, it is really difficult to find peace. And so I've developed these different rituals. I have a lot of my dad's records. And so I often am picking out records. And I was telling a friend earlier, I'm like, oh no, not the CCR again. Not the, okay, Santana, I can put that on. Or like tonight, as you were in the open mic, I could feel my dad here listening to all of you. So finding ways to still have that conversation is really important. This poem's called Dear Dad. Dear Dad who waits in a closet, dear Dad who waits in a box in the closet for case counts to dwindle enough to allow a send-off, reunited with your brother in the Pacific. Spreading ashes in public forbidden, but we'll do it anyway, even though your girlfriend wants to be there and has since blocked her on Facebook. Grief makes beasts of all of us. Tonight, when my love and I are too tired to talk or touch, I worry about the future. But you already know this. Your ashes, the anchor that keep you here, flickering in and out of photos, growing impatient to rejoin kin, be reborn as wave, butterfly, or pink-footed herring gull, wheeling overhead. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Bren, for your words. Our next poet is Emma Sloan. Emma Sloan is a poet, short fiction author, and journalist with works published across 300 plus international digital and print publications, including but not limited to The Writer Magazine, the Vancouver Island Poetry Collective, Her Umbrella Magazine, Alopecia UK, and Landlocked Literary Journal. She is the author of Foxglove. As a writing and publishing graduate of the University of Victoria in British Columbia, Canada, Emma works as a professional copywriter and content writer in a multitude of industries. Her creative writing orbits around the intersection between modern mythology and grief. Her chapbook, Opheliac, was named a runner-up in the Black River Chapbook competition and is forthcoming with the Black Lawrence Press in fall 2024.
Thank you, Emma.
I am vertically challenged, so just give me a moment while I readjust here. Is that volume okay for everyone? Okay, start yelling, let me know. Before I start, I wanted to give a very heartfelt thank you to Planet Earth Poetry, Russell's, my publisher, the Black Lawrence Press, and of course our host Nina tonight for having us. Bren, thank you so much for such a heartfelt reading. That is so hard to follow, but we really appreciated it. Before I start, I want to say that what's so serendipitous about Planet Earth Poetry's current call for response poems, which I encourage everyone here to partake in, is that my latest release, Opheliac, which I will be reading from tonight, was actually born out of a call and response to the following passage by poet Linda Gregerson, which reads, "The gods in their mercy could once turn a frightened girl to water or a shamed one to a tree, but they no longer seem to take our troubles much to heart." Broken into 3 sections, Opheliac borrows from modern Gothic horror, following a girl who drowns under mysterious circumstances and comes back as more river than person. The narrative is a non-linear, multi-point of view exploration of not only real-life crimes against women recorded in recent North American news, but also an introspection of why the characterization of Shakespeare's Ophelia still gets called upon as a patron saint for wronged women even in today's age. The first 2 of 5 poems I will be reading this evening are from part 1 of Opheliac and seed the initial mystery of this premise. In Steubenville, Ophelia claws her way up through the duckweed again. "Look at her, just standing there," John says. Eric tosses a football into the air and laughs, tight-lipped, the beehive of last weekend rattling loose behind his molars. Yesterday, when Eric went to the river to choke on the word sorry till his tongue went soft, she sank back into the deep blue until there was only the mirror of her dead deer eyes. Now, the cheerleaders are filing out in rows of 3. The firelight slides a palm up the back of their skirts, the flames as red as Ophelia's mouth gaping, red as her dress hunched on Eric's basement floor. "There are better things to look at," he says. 2. Creation myth in 4 parts. 1. Let's say, for argument's sake, that we managed to pour the dead girl back into her body. Let's say, because the story is better this way, makes it an allegory, makes it have meaning, that we pieced her back together through photographs, through peonies, through our recollections and half-lives, of why August ended up on the cutting room floor. 2. Ophelia on the bus, Ophelia in the back of the class, Ophelia's hair dripping dogwood onto the road, onto the school sidewalk, onto the tiles of the boys' bathroom. Fennels for fingertips, lilies for legs. The pastor calls it witchcraft at Sunday sermon, hands white-knuckled as the rhythmic rain from her dress runs in rivulets between the pews. Eric murmurs later that he hears it outside his window, even on clear nights. 3. All we know with certainty is that on that summer night, she was plied with alcohol at a party and woke up more river than girl. After all, what else is a ghost other than something dead that doesn't know it's dead? Like the unfortunate souls that the Greek gods once turned to nymphs in their mercy, Ophelia flowered up from that sandy bank, donning the dress we last saw her in. Like the title of creation myth, Waves 2, the through line of Greek mythology and its classic literature binds together both the Shakespearean and modern lit allusions throughout the story of Ophelia. The foreword itself actually quotes from the trilogy of Greek tragedies called the Orestia. Almost echoing Linda Gregerson's passage that I referenced earlier, it reads, "This was always going to happen. She's been dead since the beginning." An enormous inspiration for Opheliac was the rumination of what kinds of grief are strong enough to echo through different eras and cultures and societies, and how powerful it is that we can still consume literature from these time periods and feel the ache of them as strongly as anything written for us now. In my next 2 poems, both from part 2, hint at these blend of inspirations. Hay fever season. The dread of hay fever season, the anticipation that bleeds the chalk from the football field and into the Ohio River, makes it run swifter, blacker, makes it froth with a hunger that's not its own. It's the slow creeping trepidation that skulks through town like white clover. It's the pollen that cloaks the trees, the traffic lights. Bubblegum lips pop around the latest slab of gossip. The girls carve it with steak knives and eat with their fingers. The boys have their heads bowed, necks limp with sunstroke, the crests of their jerseys flashing crimson under the midday sun. Listen, something in this town's not right. Serendipity. It's Tuesday, and we're skipping 4th period to stuff sage into mason jars. When she says, "I'm so tired of boys going, I'll kill him," because they never follow through, I tip my head back, and my laughter is like glass and gravel grinding into the soft give of my throat. Well, I'm not a boy. When John's motorbike careens into the quarry the dusk before football tryouts, the school is flooded with silence. I get detention for flouncing down the A-wing, all teeth, a string of soot-blackened sage clenched in one fist. Before I read my last poem of the evening, I wanted to thank you all again for being such a fantastic audience for me and Brent, and again to Russell's Planet Earth Poetry and everyone else who made tonight possible. I wanted to say that speaking of community support, although I have a very limited number of Opheliac with me tonight, now 1 for Planet Earth Poetry, the Black Lawrence Press, which is my publisher, is donating $1 of every online March sale to the National Women's Law Center to aid in its mission of advancing gender-related justice. For online purchases and for supporting that mission, please visit either theblacklawrencepress.com or amazon.ca. On that note, to end my segment, I'll be reading from one of the last poems from part 3 of Opheliac, ironically titled Prelude. Every morning, the sun's red spill slips back behind the mountaintops. Every morning, the worn soles of Ophelia's feet skid in reverse up the gravel, the river ahead receding, waiting for its time. The twist of her body towards mine, an afterthought, the pre-morning light looping loose around the arc of her throat, lasts longer every time that we're here in these woods, at this river, at this rope swing. Her smile rewinds. "Your turn," she says, the words buoyed with the joy of not knowing. The rope is white as bone in her hands. I wave my hand in a silent tomorrow, but there is no tomorrow. Every day is this day on this hill. The sun rings the horizon, swollen like a snake bite. Crows startle from the treetops in reverse.